Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, bringing you another video, and this time we are going to finish off the X-ray segments and subsegments because Olga, who is one of our bootcampers, had solved the issue. This was something that we ran into when we did the X-ray video where we were getting an error, and I just said, forget about it. I don't want to deal with X-ray. Maybe we'll fix it down the road, or we'll just ignore it completely. But since Olga has a solution, let's go and implement it and take a look at her article, as well as, why was it so hard to solve and how did she go about solving it? So what I'm going to do is go to my repositories over here, and we had a week for X-ray, but we've been building off of each one. And so X-ray wasn't the last one that we did. I believe the last thing that we implemented was roll bar. I'm trying to remember, so we'll go here for a moment and take a look. Code spaces was the last one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to branch from code spaces, and we'll have to uncomment some of our X-ray code and get it back into shape. So I'm going to go down to this one here. You don't do this. This is just what I do. You are working in main as always. Do not forget that. So we'll say week 2, X-ray subsegments. And I'm going to go ahead and create that branch. Okay, we'll go back over to our code. I'm going to switch to that branch there. Over here, we're going to go ahead and hit the Git pod button. I'm going to close my email because we do not need that open for any reason. We're going to launch that environment, and I have to generate out new AWS credentials because every time I make these videos, I have to clear them out every single time. And so I'm constantly resetting them nonstop. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So just give me a moment. I'll be back in a second. All right, so I've set my keys. Let's just make sure that they are set. So I'm going to do an SDS get caller identity at this point. You might know it off the top of your head. I sure am starting to remember it. At some point I will definitely forget it, but I can tell that I'm connected to my account. So now we are getting somewhere. Let's go take a look at our code and see what the state of it was last time. So if we go into our backend code here, and just to save us some trouble, I'm going to cd into that front-end React directory and do an npm install. In this, I changed this out for code spaces. I'm going to go back here and just comment out code spaces. So I'm back in Git pod here, and I'll just turn that around here. So when we do this, we will have 0 to no trouble. I'm going to open up, we have the backend Flask. We'll go to app.py. And so we had stuff in here for X-ray that we indicated. So that is what I'm looking for, is the X-ray instrumentation that we had implemented here. And I am not seeing it. Why don't I see it in my code? Do we have the daemon here? No, we do not. So what that means is that one of my repos is not where it's supposed to be, and that's why I can't see it. So what I'm going to do here is, what will I do? I'm going to bring in the code from the X-ray branch. This is not something you have to do. You wouldn't have this problem. It's just because I'm working with multiple branches. So I'm going to make a new pull request, and I'm going to pull from X-ray. So the last one that I did this on was probably CloudWatch log. So what I'm going to do first is just check some of these other branches like Rollbar and X-ray and things like that, because I probably already have the code somewhere here. So check the Docker Compose here. I'm seeing X-ray here. I remember us uncommenting it. So if I go into the backend here for a moment and we check the app.py, there is X-ray. Okay, so it was this one here, probably the last one that's just not merged in here. So not a big deal. I'm just going to make a new pull request. Just fun to see pull requests if you don't see these often, but I'm going to put this into our new one, which is X-ray again. And again, you're not doing this, I'm just doing this, and we're learning about pull requests, I guess, while we're doing this. And we'll go down here, and Rollbar is pretty up to date for that. So we'll go ahead and create a new pull request. Bring in X-ray code. Okay, we'll create a pull request. It might say there's conflicts, but it says it can merge no problems. It's checking, no problems. We'll merge the pull request. We'll say merge. Looks great. I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to go and to the left-hand side here. We'll give it a refresh. I'm going to discard these changes so that when I pull, It's going to be a lot easier. I'm going to type a git pull. Okay, we pulled our changes. Great. So we'll have to go back here and bring back the git pod. Go down below here. Again, bring back the git pod, which is fine. So we have our X-ray daemon. It's going to CA Central. Yours might go somewhere else. So now I can go back over to my code. We'll check out appy, and we'll bring back the stuff that we had issues with before. So this was for CloudWatch. This is for, I believe, CloudWatch. Could be wrong, though. Yeah, it is, because it says logger. I guess I should have indicated that before, CloudWatch logs. Okay, so this is what we disabled last time, and the X-ray recorder up here. This is part of OTel, and that we were using that for Honeycomb. So we commented that out because it was just a generic one. So that should be back. And if we go into our services user activities, we had these segments. So I'll bring this back here. And then we will bring back this code here. And so this is where we were running into an error. So I'm going to start this up, and I want to see if I can get the same errors that we had before. So we'll do compose up. And we'll give that a moment to download. I'll see you back here when it's running, okay? So after a short little while, it looks like our stuff is running. I'm going to go over to the ports, see that things are running. Now this says this is not running. That might not be true, but we'll go over to our Docker tab here and verify what is actually running here. They're all green. Even the X-ray daemon is in good shape. All of these are publicly open. I can bump it up so that it's a bit easier for us to see. So yeah, these are all unlocked. And what we'll do is go to a new tab, whoops, or just click on here, and we are getting our data. So really where the issue is in the user activities. User activities is if we go to a specific page. So we type in probably someone's name, like @Andrew Brown. And so we don't see anything in here. If we go and inspect, do we get an error? We might. So we'll go here, we'll go to network tab. I'm going to give this a refresh. And we have a 500 error, so that means there's a server error. Now, does it show something like CORS? This is not a CORS issue. This is a 500 error. Check the status. That's how you know. So what we'll do is we'll go take a look at the logs and see what it's reporting. So we'll go back over to here. We will open up the logs in the back end here, view logs. And what do we see? It says subsegment is not defined. I don't think it was the same error as we had before, so I think maybe I'm missing one line here. Yes, I am. We'll go back here, refresh. It probably, we do have data, but do we have any errors? We do. And what I'm getting here is it says unrecognized client exception when calling this get sampling operation. The security token included in the request is invalid. So it's not the same error I'm getting here, but let's go take a look at what the daemon is reporting because maybe it is spitting out an error as well. So we'll go over to the view logs here. And here it says sending segment batch failed with unrecognized client exception status code 403. So I'll just expand this here. So it says request error, send request error, get instance metadata ID. So we have some kind of error. Whether I'm having the same error as Olga or it's something else, I'm sure that part of the solution is what she has proposed in her document here, but let's take a look and figure it out. So we have the article, and it talks about using X-ray for observability, that we've enabled it for CRUDers. So this is something you've already done. You put this code in here, we've done this, we've created a sampling rule, we have the X-ray daemon in our Docker Compose file, we're doing Docker Compose up, and now we're looking at defining the segment and subsegment. So we have this where we are creating a segment and subsegment. We create the segment as a recorder, and then this is where Olga talks about how she goes to find out the issue. So after researching it, she found that the error code was while closing the segment was. I found that the code was throwing an error while closing the segment, and so she was getting segment not found exception. So if we go over to ours, do we have that issue? We do not. We have a different issue which has to do with something with unrecognized client. So what I'm going to do is look up this first because I want to get the same error as Olga has if I can. And we'll say X-ray. And to me, this is more of an authentication issue for me than other things. But the reason is because the daemon can't properly access the AWS credentials. That's what it sounds like in my case. So I'm going to go over to the Docker Compose file. And I'm going to go down here. And these are getting passed along. So they should work correctly. So let me just pause and just take a look here, okay? You know what? I just don't trust how Docker Compose started up because we know this is I just have a feeling that the credentials are fine. And what happened was that I set the exports and it doesn't know in the context that I'm running this in because I right-clicked. Remember I talked about that issue before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume this code is good. I'm going to commit it. So bring back X-ray. Double check what I changed here. Go back to git pod config. And what I will do here is I will commit this. I'm going to open the context. I'm going to close this one because I don't trust this environment right now. Oh, did that even pull it? I don't even think it did. I got to go back to that now, I think. Go back to my workspaces here, dashboard. I don't think it pushed it. I'm going to reopen that again. I didn't see it sync. Double check here. Yep, see I was right. I'm going to go sync that. Should always double check your repo as best as you can. We'll go back over to here, to Crutter. I'm going to go back to this new branch here, X-ray subsegments. Going to click Git pod. We'll open up this new environment. We'll do Docker Compose up and we'll see if it is a different error, not this 403 error, which has to do with credentials. All right, so what I'm going to do is try Docker Compose up again. And by the way, I didn't have to go do npm install because I'm pretty sure in our git pod YAML file, we add that npm install there. So I never have to do that again manually. And remember to do that, but we'll do Docker Compose up. We'll wait here for a moment to get started. We'll take a look to see if we're having the same errors Olga's getting, not this 403 error, which I think right now is a red herring. All right, so this is running. Let's take a look here. Go over to our ports. What we're going to do is open up the back end or front end again. As we are getting data, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and type in Andrew Brown in the top here. And so there we are getting some data. So what I'll do is go back over to here. We'll take a look at the terminal. And really to find out errors, we'll have to go to the Docker tab and we'll take a look at those logs. So we will take a look at the X-ray daemon and see if it is sending any data. It says successfully sent a batch of 1 segments. So no error there. We'll go over to our backend. We'll view the logs. No error there. Okay, so no errors. I mean, that's good. We'll go take a look and see what is being reported into X-ray. So over here, we will make our way over to X-ray. You can type it in the search, get there however you need to get there. We have this console that is always confusing. I'm in CA Central. Make sure you are in the correct location because you could be somewhere else. So just always double check that there. I'm going to expand this here. And what we'll do is just clear out the top here because the UI here is not the best. So we'll take out the welcome. We'll just do that. Brings us to service map. On the left-hand side, we are looking for traces. So we'll go here to traces and we are getting trace information. We have a service map. So that's kind of cool. We can click into that service map, see that there is stuff. But I want to look at traces, not the service map. So we'll click on traces on the left-hand side. Service maps are great when you have a lot of services. When you don't have a lot, they don't do a whole lot. We go down below and we can see that we have this trace down below. We'll click into it and we'll see what information we have. This is for what? Good question. So we go here on the right-hand side, activities home. So it's not where we want our trace to be. We want our trace to be on this user activities page. So we'll go back over to here. And what I'll do is I'll go back over here and we'll refresh our page multiple times to try to pick up some traces. Okay, Because remember that we have a certain level of sampling on, and it's not going to appear every single time. It's going to appear, you know, in different cases. So I still do not see any more additional traces here. So let's just keep hitting this page and see if we can get some tracing data. Now, the reason why it might not be working, and this might allude to Olga's post, but we'll go back here for a moment. We'll see that these have been called. We'll take a look at the daemon. This is the X-ray daemon. We'll go back here, view logs. Hold on. So we do get, this is an error that doesn't matter. Here we have client time unexceeded waiting for headers. Sent a segment, one batch segment. So no problem so far. I'm going to go back here and go to home. And it sent a segment there. Okay. And then I'll go back to here. And we'll go back. And it's not sending a segment. It's very frustrating. So what if I copy this? I'm just going to open in a new tab and paste it in really quickly and see if it triggers a segment. Still not triggering a segment. So there's clearly something wrong going on there, and we're not 100% sure as to why that's not logging a segment there. I'm going to check the back end, see if there are any errors. No errors. All right, let's go take a look at what Olga wrote. So, okay, we see that implemented. So, while during the recent class we came across the same issue, received an error message stating segment not found, exception missing segment. We were trying to use the in-segment method to implement the AWS subsegment, so we did that. After researching the error, so I can't even get the error. This created a challenge into how to pass X-ray recorder from the Flask application to the subsegments and can find the current trace. As a first resort, we tried to use GitHub Copilot and Code Whisperer to generate code using AWS X-ray SDK. So that's something that we could do. I have ChatGPT here. We could say, how do we instrument a Flask application endpoint to use AWS SDK X-ray? And we'll see what it produces. So Olga was saying she was using Code Whisperer and Copilot, so Amazon service and GitHub service. This one's a bit different. This is ChatGPT, so it's not one that we were using here, or not the same one that Olga was using, but we'll see what it produces. So similar code, we were doing that already. We have an endpoint. It doesn't show us any additional information here. It does say capture endpoint, which is kind of interesting. The capture method is used to create an X-ray subsegment, which will be associated with your endpoint function. The name of the subsegment is defined by the string passed as the parameter to the capture. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that we could do that. Is that part of some kind of extra thing? And here we're configuring the service name, which is totally fine. So I'm actually kind of curious about this because we hadn't been using this at this point in time. So I'm going to go back over here to our backend Flask app. And if we scroll on down to the home, where's home? Yeah, I mean, we could add that there. Allow. And this one could then be activities home. And then for the user activities, we could do that as well. I mean, this is a show page. We could do it for the show. So we could do activity show. So I'm just kind of curious about that, what that would produce. Again, I didn't know we could do that. So let's test that out and see what kind of information or data that we get. So I'll go back over to the home page here. Give that a refresh. I'll click into one. I'll click back home. I'll click back and forth. And we will see if we get any segment data. So we'll go back over to X-ray. We will run the query. And now we're getting data. We're getting more data, which is great. I'll go here, scroll on down. You can see this is calling activities home. So it actually shows the name that we provided there. So that is really cool. I like that. If we click on this one, activities home, not very useful to me. Can we get better information here? I think what we really want is the URL code, because this will tell us more information. I still can't see what I'm doing. Can we turn these off, the IDs? But then we can't click into them. UI is not the best. And we could do like 100 traces here, so we have a bit more. So what I'm interested in is the actual URLs that are being pulled. So I don't see any for the show, but at least we're getting more data. So go back over here. Okay, just click through a few times. Why is it not letting me click it? Oh, it has to be the name, okay. Oh, you know what? It's because we didn't rig this page. We rigged the show page, I think. So we go here, string activities UUID for the show page, and that's not what we're hitting. What we were trying to hit was the user activities. User. Oh, it's up here. Okay, so if I go here, we could copy this. And we'll go here, and we would do users. So surprised this is called data home. Data handle, I guess that's fine. Maybe this is actually where we want our more richer data. So go back here, and I will just click into both. Okay, we'll flip back over here. And I'm just trying to see if we can get like something other than the current trace that we have. It's really not making it easy for me. Well, anyway, let's go take a look at our code in our activities users page. And I'm just going to see what happens if we comment out the old one here, because we are setting up a segment over here, but maybe this is causing some issues. So let's just rule that out before we create our segment and subsegment here. And we will go back over here to Crutter. We will refresh. I'm going to click into here. I want to just hit that a few times. We will take everything off except for this. Run query. Here we go. Finally, we're getting something else. So I think that code that we introduced is actually causing an issue, and that's why it's not logging, because clearly it's logging now, right? So what we'll do is go back over here, and we're not getting an error. Maybe we need like a debug flag on X-ray or something, and that's why we're not seeing it. But for whatever reason, you know, we aren't seeing that information. I'm going to go over to our Docker Compose YAML file and take a look at what we have on X-ray. Yeah, we don't have a debug flag, so X-ray daemon GitHub. I'm almost certain that there's a flag for debugging. No, I don't see a flag. There are different log levels, so we might be able to get more information, but for whatever reason, it's not working. And so let's go take a look back at Olga's article. So, you know, we learned something here, which is kind of interesting, but it's definitely not what would help us for custom segments. So maybe I would go back in here and I would say instrument a Flask application using X endpoint and write a custom subsegment. Well, let's see what it produces now. Okay, so they use the capture, which is cool. And so this one begins a subsegment and ends a subsegment. It's not exactly how we were using our code. We'll go back over here and we'll take a look at user activities. So we have a segment that we start, which we begin. And then we have the subsegment here, and we put the data, but we don't actually ever close it. So maybe that's our issue. And we also begin a subsegment, but we don't close that either. So let's go take a look at the solution that Olga implemented here. So if we go down below, we create a subsegment. We also create a segment up here. Also seeing annotation added, which is great. That's something new. And so it looks like we have a try, and then we have a finally, and then we close the subsegment. I don't see the segment being closed, so maybe that isn't an issue. But let's go ahead and give that a go and see if that resolves our problem. So we'll paste this in here. And we will then put it in a try at the top here. And then we'll go down here. I'll go up here for a moment. We have X-ray here. I'm not sure if we have to call self. I don't use it anywhere else. It doesn't seem like that's causing any issue here. It does seem to think this is a syntax error, probably because we need a colon. There we go. Let's go back over here. We'll give this a refresh. We're clearly getting an error. Self is not defined. That's what I thought. Why does Olga get a self and I don't? I see, because it's set up here as the initializer. So when it initializes, it puts the request over here. So that's the way we can access the request. Ah, I see. So she did that so she could capture the request information. You can do this. That's probably actually pretty good. I'm just not going to do it for the time being right now, just because I'm going to keep my code simple. We'll give this a refresh. We'll go back over here. We'll run the query. And we will drop this down here. Say confirm. Go to our latest one here. Activities user. Did we name any subsegment in there? What did we call it? Mock data. So that's what we're looking for, which we still don't have. Probably the solution is to learn how to use the query tool, but I really don't feel like doing that. So we'll go back down here. It's interesting, it's showing nodes like this. Shows this one. I'm not sure why these are different, but that's okay. Run the query. Ah, there we go. So mock data. So it looks like our issue was closing out the subsegment. Now the question is, why don't we have to close out the segment? Maybe we're supposed to. Another thought I have is the fact that if we have this capture annotation, and it's defining the segment, do we have to do the subsegment? It looks like what they do is they just begin a subsegment. So I think that it assumes that it would already be in the scope of that. So probably what I could do is remove this. We probably don't need the segment like that anymore. Yeah, yeah, I guess we don't at all. That one is actually completely useless now. So it looks like capture is really what we should have been using this entire time for defining the top level one. But yeah, clearly that is the issue. Why it doesn't show up, I have no idea why. I didn't get the error. But Olga found the error, and so that helped point us to the problem, or the solution anyway. And yeah, so we were able to correctly instrument X-ray. So for the time being, I'm going to comment out X-ray. And the reason I'm commenting it out is just so that we don't have to work with it right now. Like the subsegment stuff. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to leave it in because honestly, the only time we're running this application is when we are using it here and we're not really doing a whole lot with it. I guess my concern was that X-ray sampling can add up in terms of cost when it's in production, but we aren't in production. So honestly, I'm going to leave it like this. I think that's what I'd prefer to do. Just make sure the app is still in working order. No, I broke it. We'll go back here and take a look at it. Yeah, I changed my mind. Sorry. We'll go back here, refresh. Return model. It's because we need to bring this back in here. There we go. We'll add that. Fix X-ray. And as we work through this program, we'll continue to use Honeycomb. We'll continue to use X-ray and see if we can get better transparency as we go, but it is what it is. As you can see, I do not like X-ray, but with enough fiddling, you can get it to work. If you are stuck, you can check out Olga's article here. It does have a lot of the information. There is additional stuff here that I can see that is useful. So you can see there's more metadata for particular requests and information. And I do like the fact that this is happening here. And then of course we learned in this video that we can do these captures. But yeah, there you go. And there's the next stuff for X-ray.